All right. Welcome, LinkedIn. This is Legendmakers episode number 14. My name's Alona Lisa El Kayam, and this is Legendmakers. We're going on an adventure today with world building with AI for brands. This is a hero's journey. Every episode is a hero's journey. So we go through answering the call for adventure, crossing the threshold, slaying marketing dragons, getting yours, which is like the fruits of your labor, mastering a new normal, and then returning victorious. And that's the journey that we're going on today. We're really excited. I have so privileged to have these amazing guests today. So let's go and adventure together today. At 11:45, we're going to have a Q&A. So if you have any questions, just please put it in the comments. I'll be able to see your comments, and let's roll. Would love to introduce today. I'm going to introduce you, everybody, the guests, and then I'm going to ask what excites you most about AI's potential. So welcome, PJ Pereira. He is legendary. I'm sure many of you know him, the CEO of Pereira Odell, and also Silverside, which is an AI creativity and tech company. And he's also an author of, I think it's a series, but it's a book, The Girl from Wudang. Welcome, PJ. We've got Felipe Lacerda, who is an award-winning BAFTA, Peabody, Golden Globe award-winning filmmaker and editor. Welcome, Felipe. And we've got Phil Langer, who he was at IBM. He's, as of June, he's not. He's a free agent, so have at him. But he's an incredible AI creator. He's probably, I've just one of the best outputs that I've seen in terms of clarity and render quality. So Phil, thank you so much for joining us. Can each of you, PJ, what are you most excited about in terms of like AI's potential in like 3 words?
It's a big reset, and when the big reset comes, everyone has a chance to shine.
Love that. Philippe, what about you?
Yeah, I think that AI actually helps understand the stories better, so it makes them more engaging and more resonating and more logical, and in a way that affects heart and mind. It conveys a better sense of experience to the viewer and to the creator who feels that he has communicated his message out.
Awesome. And Phil, what about you?
I think I'm most excited also about the possibility of the future, as you can like see what's kind of read the writing on the wall and what's to come. And I think most of us creators always wanted to be like filmmakers secretly, and I think you can kind of tell that maybe to make
True
this possible.
True that, Phil. I'm into that. I really agree. I think one of the things I was thinking about today, because, as creative leaders, we always think about how we can inspire our teams. And I think most people don't realize that creators are secret, like, they dream of being filmmakers, they dream of being authors, they dream, so I think this really plays into that. So today we are going to cross the threshold. We answered the call for adventure. We all of us here today have adventured into AI in one way or the other. We're in the middle. Well, I don't know what stage of the journey that we're in, but I know we've all been working in this medium for at least a year. I was at previous one of the heads of brand studios for IBM, and that was in 2017, and I already embarked on my AI journey then. So this is kind of like the second coming of AI for me. So I think it's really interesting how brands and creators have now understand the value and are now implementing it into their process. We are looking at today through a lens of world building. What I mean by that is we're living in a siloless, funnelless world now. Marketing used to be about the buyer journey and the different stages, but we know it's an infinite circular process where it's made up of all of your IP, your desire to build fandom and community. And we do that through infinite customer journeys. So in that vein, how can AI help us build that world for brands and for the agency? So the first meaty part of this discussion is slaying marketing dragons, but it's about the creative process, because I think that's where it starts, right? I think when we are thinking about how to incorporate creativity, I know I just jumped into Midjourney and Runway, but I think we all thought about how are we going to incorporate this into our day-to-day, like the reality of it. So I don't know, PJ, can you talk about when you first embarked on this journey with AI, how did you think about how to incorporate it into the creative process?
So my entrance into the space wasn't because of advertising. It was because of the book that you were telling me, because I had a character, it's a sci-fi book, and one of the characters is an AI. So I started to study it just to understand how AI thinks and operates. And that was 8-9 years ago, right? So, and as it got close to the publication dates, the news about AI started to pop up. And 1 year before, once I started to prepare for the launch, then the idea of AI generating images started to become a reality. So I did a book trailer in almost a year and a half now. It was November of 2022. And I was fascinated by that. Like, this is something new, and it's a new process, a new way of doing things. And I have to start to think about how we are going to do that with the marketing world. And since then, we have been operating and trying and testing things. The difference between the first trailer that I did a year and a half ago, and the one that I did a month ago is incredible. You see the difference. And I think that's what's happening for me. It's not that I'm trying to adjust and to include that in the process. I have been experimenting with it for personal reasons, and then I found that this is going to transform the advertising business as well. So we're experimenting. Both the agency and the clients are doing experiments of all kinds and sizes. Because I think that is important, and I think it's not that a little thing. I think that the idea of experimenting is the cornerstone of these moments. We need to do that not only from a curiosity standpoint, but also from the responsibility standpoint. We need to do things with the scale that allows us to see the results, the implications in all parts of the world and the companies and the brand and society. And okay, do we want more or less of this, and adjust as we go.
Right. You touched on a good, so find your pilot projects is something that I'm getting from you. It's like figure out a good pilot project and start from there to figure out how you want to embrace it in your entity, whether you're a brand or you're an agency. And I think the book project, and we'll show you, I'm going to, that's in the next section. We are going to show some of the work that you guys are working on using AI, and I will show that the book launch, it's really incredible. Phil, what about you? How are you thinking about in terms of the creative process, not the output yet, but just in terms of your tech stack and the best use cases right now for where we are?
Yeah, I think it's also very interesting what the tech stack is about. Is kind of like I always was asked by my designers in the past, is kind of what's the secret to creating these kind of high quality images. And it was pretty clear that there is no really secret to it. It's more it's always art direction, creative direction, right? In the end, it's not so much different than a photographer shoots, I don't know, 1,000 images and then selects 5 of those. And I think that's also part of the work of us creatives, kind of the creation of content, basically, of what is a good image and what is not. But the tech stack is kind of that which kind of defines the quality on top, I think. So once you still have to have a creative eye and to know what's a good image, what's a good video clip, what can you use for your brand. But then also there's like all these other tools, you combine them, these AI tools, and with the combination, I think, of several tools, like you create an image in Midjourney and you import it in Magnify or Crea, and then you can like mask elements out of it and create a completely new image. And that kind of elevates like the quality. Same with like video. You have like all these other tools like Topaz and just all these creative suites that you kind of combine. And I think the combination of these tools is kind of makes these tech stack so important, and also the quality is so high. It's not like there's not this one tool. Everyone's kind of looking for this one AI tool that does it all, I think. But I think it's really like a combination of several things, and us creatives, we have to kind of always keep track of what's like the latest tool, what's the latest development and this stuff. Yeah.
Right. And I think we'll get into, I think, because I do want to talk about prompting. I do think that, you know, you have to try everything. I think thinking about what it works for you, what like Midjourney versus DALL-E, for example. Like I just took the Midjourney for some reason. It just, the interface or whatever felt better for me. Runway is like very frustrating for me, but I use it. Like I want to throw my computer out the window all the time when I use it. But I think but it's the best video AI software we have to date. But I think in terms of creative process, I think I look at it as the internal creative process, the process that you use from like a brief to execution. And then there's the actual like output if you're using it for production or pre-production. But this discussion, I did want to talk a little bit about the process, because I think that's where people are getting a little bit hung up. I spoke to some fellow chief creative officers whose teams are very nervous about AI and how will the art directors and the writers of the future fit in. And I think understanding, you know, we have our employees, like we have different pilot projects, you know, and that's what's really important, is giving people pilot projects so they can basically like begin the experimentation process and not be afraid of it and kind of embrace it. So I do want to talk about, maybe let's get to the creative output, but I do want to talk about the data sets. You know, I think when you think about the benefits of this process, like PJ, you know, or like if you're creating your books, if you're an author and you're now using AI to engage audiences with your book, creating, how is it that, like, let's say you have this character, the girl from Wudang, for example, right? She's a character. You train your AI data set. This is what the character looks like. This is what she this is her behaviors. This is her like physical features and characteristics, you know, and you feed all of that into the data set. And Felipe, I'm going to ask you this too. Like if there's a character that you're feeding into a film, for example, I think having agencies and brands being able to own their own data set. And what does that mean? Like, you know, like you don't have to rely on public data sets necessarily. You can actually create your own data set. So I don't know, Felipe, can you talk a little bit about that? I think when, you know, especially when you're developing a film or an idea for a film, you start creating a world around it. So can you talk a little bit about creating a proprietary data set for, let's say, a film, you know, a film project or something like that?
Of course. Yeah, at Intelligent Storytelling, we consider each project one project. So each project has its own data sets and has its own requests. So there's nothing like formulate, like, you know, this works for all. And having that said, I mean, there's a lot of iteration between us and the director producer in order to, what does he want to achieve? In the world of art and filmmaking and television not so quite, but whatever, what you consider art, there's a bit of a difference between that and more of a branded marketing experience in which the goals are really objective, and, you know, with the outcome and what you want to reach and what kind of feelings you want to arise and what kind of CTA there is. In a film, something's more fluid. There's a connection with art. So and sometimes the creatives in the entertainment industry are not exactly have a definite answer of what that is. There's an expressive way of doing things. Nonetheless, I think that it's key to keep iterating. I enter many times on the very early on stage of the process, in which people tell me, "Oh, I have this idea for this documentary about this thing in South Africa, this team of I don't know hockey," and then we start iterating. Who are the characters? What's the story? What's the art? What's the you start building on that. And basically that works for film or for marketing. Having your own data set there that you can always rely on that and always iterate with that in an agile manner, having more and more and more each time gives you a better result. So I wouldn't think that for marketing it would be desirable to have like one single model. I mean, you think that each client, each product, each film is a different, a whole bit different animal. And each one needs to address different questions. So,
but who's responsible? Like, who's responsible for creating this data set? Is it going to be it's not the director, right? Like, it's, you know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, basically, when in art, in filmmaking, you're dealing with this intuition. And it's part of our job to go there and kind of narrow down and verbalize it and test it. And sometimes, it's harder in a way to try to refine and define too much, because then the creator might feel that he's losing his creative stake. But at the same time, I mean, we have to be the advocates of the audience, right? So what is the audience experiencing? How is it flowing this journey? Is it followable? If you want something completely abstract and no one wants to follow, fine, you do a film and you put it in your on your drawer. But how much do you want to communicate? How much do you want to leave open? And how much do you want people to certainly understand that in that way? There are filmmakers who work in a more open-ended, open interpretation. There are filmmakers who work. You go out of a film of B director and you only think what he wants you to think, and you go into an A director, and not A or B in the scale of value, of course, but you go to another director and he says, well, you think whatever you want. I mean, the film that I've done that won the Emmy, actually, Bus 174, each person goes out of the movie theater with a completely different opinion. And the film is about a kidnapping of a bus.
Right.
And the film was used both by prosecution and defense as a proof. And I said, well, God, this is a documentary. It's not fact, first of all. But I was happy to see that people could interpret the film in their own way. That's my own style. But other people want things very narrow and very clear, and that's where we go for it. We just to conclude, we iterate with the creative team, the director and the producer, on how much definition do we want and how much
right.
What we need to evolve.
So to sum up, like, basically it's like you have your story, your characters, all the elements we can feed into basically what you're saying is you can feed in as much or as little as you want into the data set. What I'm trying to do in this discussion is also land some very practical ways to help people start today, understand today, embrace today. That's awesome. That's where I'm trying to land some of this, but that was great. Thank you so much. So let's talk about the creative output. Okay. I think that's really the meat of this discussion. I think, how do we set standards for our output? How are we thinking about, I know, and we have differing opinions, I think. I personally am using AI just for like mock-ups and for the pre-production. In some cases, I might use it for some editorial pieces, but the discussions that I'm being a little bit maybe overly sensitive to the ethical aspects of it. You know, using Midjourney for final art is not something I can embrace right now, because no one's sure about the ethical aspects of the data sets that are on Midjourney right now. You know, like Adobe Firefly is totally cleared and stuff like that. But I'm curious about how you're setting standards for your own projects. Or do you feel like, you know, PJ, we spoke a little bit yesterday, and, you know, talk a little bit more. I think you're kind of like, let's experiment. Let's just see where this takes us. Let's not get caught up in the you know, the ethics, right? Let's just see what it can do. Or, you know, that's why I just want, you know, PJ, what do you think? Where are you on this?
So I'm not experimenting with the ethics, right? For me, the important thing is that experimentation allows you to test this future and understand the implications as you're going, so you can refine your ethical comprehension as you're going. For example, when I'm doing things for my own book, I allow myself a much wider range than when I'm working for a big client. You know, for my own book things, I can use Midjourney and then just animate those frames on Luma. Fine. When I'm working with my clients, there's kind of much broader range, much more bigger visibility, and the implications are much bigger in terms of the dynamics of the industry. Then I tend to go with more robust platforms like Leonardo instead of Midjourney, because I can trust their data sets way more, and they have the tools are robust enough to allow for groups to work together. I think that the point here is that all the dynamics of this world are changing very fast, and what is considered good or bad today will change tomorrow. What's reasonable, what's not today will change tomorrow. So we cannot overcommit to any opinion, because you will change your mind. You're going to have to change your mind in terms of, oh, I can only use AI for this or for that, because to begin with, there's not such a thing as AI. AI is a form of computing that is everywhere, and it's very hard for you to decide not to use AI today, because it's on every software. Anything that has a computer on has an element of AI already. So there's no escape.
No, and I agree. I get torn a little bit in terms of, like, you know, the real discussion is like, in the offline world, you know, I go to museums, I listen to music, you know, we see you know, we see cars on the street, we see how people dress, we get inspiration from everywhere that exists around us. And that's how, as a creative, that's how I generate, you know, whatever happens inside, right? Whatever happens for me as a creative, however I pull the dots together to create an idea, it comes from the world around me. I couldn't live in a blank world, in a blank, you know, no white walls all day long. Like, I need that stimulus. So I do feel like, even if like Runway, for example, will not reveal their data set, you know, so it's like they won't tell people where they got their data set from. And yet I'm on the fence. I feel like, well, that's okay. I mean, it's up to us. Like, what we are creating, we are the ones that are prompting. We're the prompt engineers, the art directors, the creative directors that are coming up with our own ideas, even if they used a data set that, I don't know if it's, you know, if it's not cleared, for example, the way that Adobe Firefly is cleared, is that still okay? And part of me thinks, yes, we have the right to experiment with stuff that's already out there, as long as we're not copying anything. And I think, Felipe, you and I were talking a while ago about how, like, I wanted to create something that looked like Wes Anderson, right? But we don't have to say Wes Anderson. We can say the symmetry, you know, the pastel colors, you know, something like that. And I think a lot of times as a creative director, you know, or as a brand, like we do have an idea of how we want things to look, and we do reference other things all the time. Like that's part of the brief all the time. So anyway, I just thought that was interesting. I'm going to show your Wudang for a second, the second one, PJ, if that's cool. I just want to show what you did. Maybe you can explain a little bit about what excited you about this and where you want to take this. So it's a little dithered, but it's oh wait, let me start from the beginning. Get out my brain, Tai Chi, save me. My head wants to kill me. My chi, please come save me. Why the universe wants me into the fog, trust me. All dragons can see. Why did they pick me? My fists are thunder to be. Why the universe wants me. Tigress wars, destiny. The Tao, the balance I can't be. Too yang, no yin, that's me. My head wants to kill me. Silent creatures we can't see. So first of all, the music is awesome, by the way. That's like great music. Is that also
the music was done with Suno? I wrote it and then let Suno got Suno to do it, but it took at least 30, 40 iterations until it got to the right place.
Can you tell people what Suno is? I don't know if everybody knows.
Suno is like a Midjourney for music. It's you enter the lyrics, or it can even help you generate lyrics for you, and then you pick the style of the song, the kind of instrumentation, and you prompt the music, and then it generates it. And I needed something that combined the technological world with a touch of Taoist music and Chinese instruments, and it took a while to bend the AI to that, and it finally got there. But I think that's an interesting point, because it doesn't matter if it's music or the images, because it happened the same thing. I think we need to the way it feels for me is that we are going, it's like evolving from bikes to horses, although bikes are more modern than horses, but it's like going from one to the other. With a bike, you have total control where the bike goes, but all the power comes from your legs. With the horse has way more power than you, but it makes some decisions on its own. So
yes.
Riding a horse requires you to understand how to communicate with that one particular beast.
That is such a good analogy, PJ. Yeah. That's awesome. That is the best analogy I've heard so far, because AI does hallucinate sometimes, and you do need to understand its shortcomings, right? I mean, right now,
not only the shortcomings, is what it will do and how you communicate. You know, a horse, you need two different horses will react to your things, to your commands in different ways. If you work with Leonardo or with Midjourney or with Firefly, they're going to react to your prompts and the way you're asking things completely different. If you ask Runway or Luma to generate a video for you, they're going to operate in a different way, and you need to develop your skills on that and your ability to communicate with that particular platform. The problem is that they keep outdoing each other, and you have to learn to do all of them, but you tend to have your preferred ones. And you also need to understand which ones are better for what circumstance. Like Midjourney, I love Midjourney for my personal projects. I don't use it for professional things unless it's just to generate internal ideas. But I trust Leonardo way more for professional use. So all those things are things that you just need to understand what horse you're going to use for what.
And I guess the question is like, I love I love the idea also that you used I think a book launch should always be like a film launch, should always feel like a film launch. And I love that you embrace that for your own book launch. And I think, I mean, would you have embraced it in that way if AI weren't around for you to be able to play with that on your own, you know, or
I would, but I am my previous books I did book trailers as well, but I opened camera for them and I kind of work
yeah,
with director friends. But that's not very scalable. That's it's not. I have the luxury of having an agency and having lots of director friends that I can do some fun projects together and fine. But now is I think this is the kind of thing that anyone can do if you have the skills. You do it, and I think that the idea that artificial intelligence allows anyone with a creative mind and one particular incredible talent to surround that talent with other skills that you may not have is great. So I can write, but I cannot make a song. I don't understand music enough, but I can with AI, I can take my own writing and turn it into
right.
music that works for at least for this level. If I was doing a Super Bowl spot, if I were doing a big movie, I would bring a composer to work with me. But for my book, for my scale, that's more than enough and is infinitely better than what I would have been able to do by myself.
Awesome. No, I think it's incredible. I think it's very freeing in some ways, you know. Phil, I'm going to show one of the things that I really admire about what you're doing is you are creating these very sublime images and films. And I think you spent a lot of time on the render quality of it. And I think it's just really incredible. We need to all get there, and I know you do have like training, you are training people, but I think that's I'm going to show people this is a film series. You want to tell a little bit about this Carcosa film series a little before I play it?
Oh, this one's actually the series. It's what's more like one of these one-shot experiments of I don't even know how it started. I think it's also like the way the working with AI, what makes it also exciting is that once you have like one image or one idea, it's so easy like to spread out in all these different directions, right? And I think that's what makes it so cool. Like you have it can be like an image that you created, or like you find like PJ said, there's a music track that you like, and then it's so easy to like experiment and explore like more stuff from this one asset. And it's kind of like I think with this film it's the same thing. I think I had this image of like this floating person in the forest something, and then I created another image, and all of a sudden you have like 5 scenes, and then it's so easy to create more. You find a track you like, and then after a couple of hours, a day or two, you have like a track or like a clip.
What does Carcosa mean though?
I think it's like inspired from the True Detective season, the first season.
Oh,
I think
okay,
like
okay.
all this imagery kind of comes from.
Okay, cool. So I'm gonna just share this. I think that's it. Okay. Oh, let me start from the beginning. Actually, this is the beginning. Okay. Oh, that was me. Sorry, I recorded this. So that one was mine. That wasn't Phil. Sorry. Anyway, you sent me the real one, but I don't know why this one. Anyway, but tell me a little bit about I guess when you started using, I don't know what you're using, Runway maybe, but when you started versus like where you are now, because I think people are trying to close that delta. I think it's like very hard to get to in terms of quality I don't know. Just talk a little bit about the considerations and the prompt.
Yeah.
I'm just yeah.
It's just definitely something you have to keep on, like it's also what I know is you have to keep on being up to date on all these tools, or you can't really being up to date on all these tools. I think you have to find kind of a niche that you interested in, because then otherwise it's going to be too much. I was always interested in like photography and film, so I'm just following like what is the latest technologies to make the stuff more realistic, and the better the quality, the better it is and stuff. So that's kind of the idea behind it. So, but it is basically I create images in Midjourney mostly, then try to touch them up with traditional Photoshop retouching until I have like this image sequence I like, and then I think like all of us doing it this way, we import it in Runway and use like all these tools that you have available, like motion brush and camera settings. But it's true, like every week basically all these new tools come out, right? There's Runway Generation 3 is out now, there was Luma out, and every time you think like, oh crap, I should have like maybe redo my film that I did 3 months ago and now with Luma because it's gonna look much more amazing. But yeah, it's like being constantly up to date and constantly experiment. Yeah, also like PJ said, you have to kind of always, you have to kind of understand the language of all these tools. You kind of have to get a feel at some point of how does Midjourney work, what prompts work with Midjourney, what settings work with Runway. It's very different, and it's constantly learning. Have to be up to date.
Do you feel like it's giving, in the projects that you worked on, maybe not personal projects, but, for clients? I mean, I feel like it's very freeing. I know it's very freeing on many levels to be able to have these tools. I know for conceptual reasons, like we can imagine anything. I think it's almost scary to some point. Like there's no limits on what we can imagine today. I want to show the Volvo commercial, which PJ you posted, and I saw, which is really incredible. But I'm just curious, like, how do you feel like it's helped you become a better creator?
Do you mean me? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I think it's a good and bad, right? One side, it's great that you have all the opportunities to experiment, but if you have all of the opportunities, you kind of like, it's easily to be overwhelmed, and it's even more important to like to focus on stuff, right? If you used to like have to like get a creative idea, you have to like shoot it, transfer the data, edit it, color correct, and all that stuff. Now, it's so easy to experiment, but it's also so easy to also get off the right path. And I think it's up to us creatives to also to decide what is actually a direction we should follow before we just do this crazy rainbow of assets. And I think that's also like one of the new ways of working. I think fine-tuning assets, deciding what's the right brand tonality and what's not.
I do feel like that's on, to be able to put some guardrails around like what you're trying to produce. PJ, when you were creating this piece for the girl from Wudang, like, did you have some guardrails? Like, what were your guardrails in terms of like the imagery? Like, or did you have a script, or were you just like feeling it out a little bit?
The benefit of the beauty of doing a trailer is that they don't have the trailer doesn't need to tell a story. The trailer needs to mix the story enough so you have no sense of what's going to happen and only understand the universe. So because I own the story, I created the story, I feel like I can pick all those things and mix them together, make them exciting enough, which is a way to deal with the limitation of the technology right now. I think that the video AI is making progress fast, but it's far from being ready to tell all the stories that humanity wants to tell. There's no character consistency. There's still a lot of flipping images they need to fix later. There's very little precision on how you direct the actors and the people and the camera angles. So you need to be open to deal with what is going to give. Is I think the point when anyone that wants to work with using AI to produce final pieces, you need to be ready to work with what the robots are going to give you. You cannot expect precision the way you expect from artists that you're partnering with. is a completely different game.
So there is he was one of the co-founders of OpenAI. Andre, his name was Andre. I'll get his name in a second. Andre, hold on. But he spoke about this idea that he used the book Thinking Fast and Slow, basically as a bellwether for how we should think about how AI can communicate with us. So right now we're in a stage where it's level 1 thinking. So you can ask AI what 2 + 2 is, and they will say 4.
Sometimes.
Sometimes
Sometimes you say 4, sometimes you say 3.
Right, but it'll say, it 2 + 2, it knows that it's 4, right? But when you start to ask it the level 2 thinking, the idea that it's supposed to connect all these dots for you, right? It can't quite do that yet. So the person I was talking about was Andre Karpathy, and he was one of the, I don't know, chief technologists of OpenAI, and he left, but he's creating a school, like an AI school, basically. But I think it's interesting. I think we do need to understand so let's talk about, when you start using AI, you start understanding what the limitations are. But I think that's what the biggest hurdle is right now, is I think we need to really spend time with the software to really understand how much it can interpret and how much it can't, like it knows a lot about my company, Far From Timid. Like, we have a data set. I fed it the brand voice. I fed it all the, everything that needs, the ChatGPT, for example. I fed it a lot of information. Now it understands what I need when I talk about writing, right? But like Midjourney, for example, I have to start from scratch with Midjourney all the time. I have to it's just, so I think the point is that I think we do need to understand that we do need to feed it to be, like Phil said, we have to be, art direction and creative direction becomes very important. Like the lighting, like it won't accommodate us in any way, but I do think what I have noticed is, like, you can't be too specific either, like you can be very general and it might work and it might help you. But once I try to get so specific, that's when it really turns on me, I don't know, Phil, if you found that, like, if you try to get too specific, it starts to, I don't know, goes in very weird places.
Yeah, I guess it's also part of, like we said, like of understanding what makes sense and what doesn't. But what I also kind of like about being not too specific, or too specific, it's also sometimes you get completely random results, right? That you didn't even want to prompt. You get like something crazy. But often this stuff is also very excited. Like I have this somewhat popular Instagram account of like this human animal hybrid portraits, basically, and they kind of came out of a completely different idea I actually had in mind. Like I want to do this film about these animal people, whatever, and then this hybrid creature came out, and it's kind of, I like this about the use of AI, that sometimes like these fails or these hallucinations of the AI present like a result that you wouldn't even think of. So that's kind of also, I think, an interesting aspect.
I love that part. I love that part of being surprised. I really do. I think that's really incredible. I wanted to show the Volvo commercial and the Toys R Us commercial, and I just wanted to hear you just tell me what you think about, just in general. I don't want to put any parameters around it, but I'm going to just, this is the Toys R Us commercial. Toys R Us brand, I guess they went bankrupt, but this was like their back commercial, right? Hey, we're back, everybody. This is just the beginning. Oh, whoops, hold on.
Son of a bike shop owner, Charles Lazarus had a vision. that would go on to change toy stores forever.
Okay, I just did the intro. That was just the intro. And then I'm going to just play the Volvo. We'll start from the beginning.
Volvo for life.
So I don't know, PJ, you posted this, and there was like a lot of discussion, and I think of all the things that I've seen, and this was not a real commercial, by the way. This was just an experiment. Yeah, some spec work, but it was very inspiring. Like, I thought it was really inspiring. I don't know. Tell me a little bit about like what your thoughts are on that piece. And let's say Volvo was your client. Would you give them this as like, oh, here is one of our ideas, for example?
I think that the reason why I was talking about that one, it had very little to do with the spot itself and more with the process that led to it. I think that's what matters. Like, if you look at the work that Phil does is stunning, and the ability, the fact that we can get that level work of beauty done through these tools is incredible. Then there's the other angle, is that what happens when someone that can do something very specific in the old world, it had to be highly specialized, decides to do more by surrounding its own core skills with other things. So that Volvo spot was created by a colorist. He's a guy that in the regular film process, he takes what a director shot, what an editor edited, and just makes the color makes the final edit look really pretty. I mean, but he's still a filmmaker. When he looked at those tools, like, I think I can with these tools, I can direct. And he used that to show that he can actually put an idea, a vision, make it look stunning, and it worked. It looked pretty final, to me. Is it the best award-winning? Is it like an award-winning car commercial? No, it's not. But it's still better than 90% of the car commercials out there in the world. And I think that's the way we need to look at that. It's better than the average, and it's much cheaper than the average to make. And the other side of that is that, we keep talking about how AI is going to take jobs from everyone, but also is going to allow more creative minds to do more things, like the guy who did like Gao, who did that spot doing. And I think that is a part of the discussion that we are missing. We only look at the threats, and trust me, having spent 8 years working on a sci-fi book with AI characters, I spent 8 years thinking about it as a villain, right? But when you get into it and start to get your hands dirty, it is fascinating, and it's not what you can see from the outside. You can only understand the impact, you can only have a glimpse of this future once you actually try to accomplish something using that technology.
I do feel like we all need to think about AI as our friend. I don't think it's a threat. Just putting a stake in the ground. Like, I don't think it's a threat. I think it can only help us. I think when I embarked on the AI journey, when I was at IBM, it was really interesting because I think that it allows us to actually do our jobs better. It allows me to be a better creative. Like you said, oh, I want to do a film for your book, and you did it. I want to do a song for the video, and you did it. We wanted to come up with a song for New Year's for Far From Timid for our clients. We used AI. We did it. I never did a song before. I always wanted to write a song, always. And so I was able to do it. And I think that's the beauty of it, is like, it's not, you know, Scooter Braun is not going to sign me to his label or anything, but it's a great, I think it's confidence building in some way, because you can enter into things that you maybe wanted to try before, but you never did. So but anyway, back to the Volvo commercial. I do think to me, it's like, if Volvo is trying to be green and want to promote its, you know, green objectives, like, to me, that's the way to do it, right? Even it could be a great, like, always on piece of content too, right? I think it was incredible. I mean, I think there's a concept in there somewhere, but I do think it's beautiful. I think it definitely made me think about, in terms of world building, I would use that Volvo piece as is, as a 24/7 always on piece of content. Do you know what I mean? Like, maybe it's not their big brand campaign, but I do feel like it has a place, and I think it was really amazing. I don't know, what do you think about, Philippe, when you look at the Toys R Us commercial? Like, I don't know, what do you think about it? Did you see the full one at all? Have you seen it?
No, I have not seen it, and actually the transmission was a bit jarring, so but I could not see. But I want to pick up on what PJ and Phil have said. Both are managing this idea of the horse and the fine tuning. It's proper from the narrow AI moment that we still live, that in the neural network, the input and the output, there is a black box in the middle, and you never know what's in the end. You know, PJ said, oh, you put something into Runway or into other tools or Luma, and you get a different aspect. But if you put twice into Runway, you're going to get twice the same thing. I mean, just ask ChatGPT, and you can iterate forever. So the menace is this idea of no one knows what the output is, because it's a combination of things in the neural network. So that brings out a very uncontrollable thing. We are far from the point of AGI, although we are seeing, you know, all the developments in vision and so on. But the notion of perception, interaction, understanding, and reasoning, autonomous learning, and generalization, and consciousness and self-awareness are still a long way to go. I mean, people predict here and there. You can elude people on that. Make an illusion that they are thinking of it like that, but it's not. So that's one thing to think about. And the other is, you know, we're all talking about how we iterate with AI in order to foster our creativity. But if you think in the artist's perspective, I mean, like, I don't know, when Jackson Pollock makes his drips, you know, what kind of accident there is happening? What kind of internal movement? Is he throwing more paint or less paint, or did he look on the side and just dip too much the brush, and there was more there, and then he did that? We're iterating with a system of algorithms in order to deal with those chances as our world building. But those chances are not artistic in a way that they involve sentiment, they involve consciousness, they involve going back to past experience. They are more related to algorithms, which are by nature of neural networks uncontrollable, and they don't even know what this is. And one of the big scares, I don't want to scare anyone, about the future of AGI is a system that develops its own language to talk with itself in a language that we do not understand. So there's a difference between the accident in the artistic creation and the iteration with the accent. You know, I'm making this painting and I ripped the canvas, so I'm going to make a Lucio Fontana painting. That's a different than right. Deal with an image system that is not doing that fundamentally. It's just rearranging numbers. So the risk of us going to the uncanny valley, in the sense that it starts going into a terrain that relates to no one, but it can astonish us, it is big. And it's funny because the other day there was this research on how the different LLMs are responding to things, and I was astounded by the fact that they are doing very good on SATs and GSAT or GMAT or whatever, and they say that they perform very well on world history, but what is world history? Tell the story of a war, and there's always two sides. What is world history? And the lowest score of all was in art history. And again, what is art history? When you talk about American art, I mean, how much are you putting the Navajo artists or anything like that? I'm just giving a random example. So this whole logic, we need to have that in mind when we create. That the artistic chance of the creative process, it is by being iterated by something that does not have consciousness of or self-awareness, and that poses several challenges that we could go deep if you want.
I think consciousness is important. I think just to close that up a little bit, I think we need to own the creative process. If I use PJ's analogy of the horse, it's like, sure, we can rely on the horse to take us from one place to the next. It'll get us there, but we do need to be a participator. We do have to guide it. And so I think having that in mind, having the confidence, the clarity in the creative process to be able to own it in that way. Like, you are the rider of that horse. You have the consciousness. They don't have the consciousness. They're not. We have to own that at every step. And I think the chance part, sure, if something interesting happens along the way, great. But I do feel like we are the ones that have the consciousness. We are the ones that have to understand. I think too many people, I think the way people talk about AI, at least in the conversations that I'm having with marketers, is like they feel like there's like this aspect of it that's not really there. It's like, it's there to help us. We guide it. It'll do what it can on some level, but it's not an answer to everything. It's not like a silver bullet, for example. I want to we have a few questions from LinkedIn, but I did want to just in terms of mastering a new normal and the ethics aspect of it. I'm of two minds. Like, I want to play with Runway. I want to use Runway. I want to use it for storyboarding. I want to use it for, in some cases, the final artwork is great for social when we're doing social, but like there are creators like Jonathan Lamb from Riot Games, and he's like a really big proponent. I mean, he's really leading this movement on protecting artists. And so he's like really upset that, for example, that Apple is not disclosing their data set, like where they're training their data set. Runway also won't disclose it. So what do we do? Like I just, I want to be ethical. I want to guide my clients in the right way, but it's kind of the Wild West. So I don't know, PJ, how are you thinking about it? And
I mean, they're the only way for me to live with all these moving parts is that I look at the decision in separate levels. I mean, there's the personal. There's a personal excitement or panic. So I think about it. It's like I grew up in Rio. So for me, when you see a wave, you run for the sand or you go or surf it. If you stay there, the wave is going to take you down. So I look at that 4 different waves. There's the personal wave. That is, am I as an individual, am I going to embrace this and use this as a new possible skill for me? Or I'm just going to sit back and feel like I'm not going to get involved. There's another thing. There's another layer of that. Another wave is as an entrepreneur, as an agency owner. Am I going to bring that as a skill for my agency, or I'm going to stay away from it because it's too dangerous right now? Then there's the the industry level part. Okay, as an industry, do we want these skill or these possibilities to really make an impact on the industry that we operate or not? And then as a society, as a world, as the political sphere and the economy and everything, how do you want it? And I think those are very separate discussions.
I think we might get cut off. Sorry, I don't want to. I'm hoping we don't. Oh, we're not getting cut off. Okay, good. Okay.
Yeah, the problem here, Alona, I think, is when we merge those discussions. I can be very concerned about the economic impact of AI in jobs in the world. I am. It keeps me awake at night.
Yeah.
Right? Awake at night. But at the same time, I feel like as an individual, I want to learn those skills because that makes me a better creative. And two opposing ideas can coexist, and I can hold. I feel absolutely comfortable with holding different opinions at those different levels. And when you look at that, I don't want to work with AI. I don't want to learn AI because there's a problem with the artists. And the concern with how the artists and how we're going to think about the ethics of using artists' works in the way it's trained is very absolutely legit. But it's a separate conversation about, am I going to develop my skills on how to use these tools?
100%.
Which is very different from should we put too much of that power on the hands of machines that may develop their own decision process and communication process that may control energy and water supplies and the stock market in a way that may not be beneficial to us. Like, all those layers are separate and they need to be seen and observed in a separate way.
I love that. And that makes me feel better, because I feel like, look, I'm using it every day, like you are, PJ and Phil and Felipe. Like, we're using it. I'm doing it. I love it. I embraced it. And I feel like I do feel like that makes sense. Like, I follow Jonathan Lamb. I want to see what he has to say. I want to understand, as a creator myself, as also an artist and a painter, I understand what it would feel like if someone started creating my style and just made it their own. I totally get it, but I do feel like you're right. Like, let's embrace it. Let's see what it can do. Let's understand how to train it in the way that we need it. And I think we are all ethical people. I think we will all figure out the ethics of it together as an industry. I just don't know. The reason why I'm having this talk in the first place is because at the industry level, we're not having, it's not a synchronous event here. There's a lot of different conversations. The marketers are having totally different discussions than the creators. But I wanted to just one question from the audience, and then I'm going to say thank you for all of your time. But Claudia, she's asking how each of the speakers decides how and when to leverage AI. Is there a first question or decision point that triggers your exploration? I don't know if anybody wanted to catch that. I don't know. I'm gonna throw it to Phil. Or PJ, go ahead.
Phil.
No, I think it's kind of like what I said already. It's kind of like the decision point is really an experiment of what comes out if I type a prompt in and see if there's anything that I don't think there's a certain decision point, a trigger point for exploration. Yeah.
Right. It's just let's go. Right. Like let's.
I think so. I see, like, throw something at the wall, see if it sticks, if it works. If not, maybe I go back to like traditional stuff.
Here's the decision point. LFG. That's it. That's what it is. It's LFG. Anyway, look, I wanted to thank all of you for your time. I'm super grateful. This was a really fulfilling discussion. I think it was really helpful for everybody who's watching. I'm excited for more conversations like this. I hope at an industry level. I know Con Lion was last month. I know there was a lot of discussions, but I think figuring out a way to create a body of people who can help the industry as a whole, so we're not all repeating processes. But thank you so much, everyone. This is Legendmakers. I have the show live like once a month. I'm going to start doing them a little bit more often, but just thank you, everybody, for your time. We're going to be publishing this. This is a playback, so anybody can play this back. And that's really it. Thank you, guys, for your time. And if you want to, I'll be setting up a follow-up so you can see PJ's new book, and Phil, some of the stuff that you're working on. And I know, Felipe, you just became credited or certified. And so I think here are 3 incredible minds on ways to use AI. So, feel free to reach out to them individually. But have a beautiful week, everybody. Have a legendary week. And thank you so much for your time. I'm so grateful.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.